Hi, we are doing something again a bit different today. I'm bringing on the lovely Sara Royf to talk all about LinkedIn and actually expose myself and have my LinkedIn audited by an expert so that we can all learn from the process and see how to really optimize what we've got going already and get better tips to get more results from LinkedIn. So thank you, Sara, for coming on, and I'm so excited for this.
Michelle, thanks so much for having me and for being willing to receive feedback live on air.
Thank you. It is kind of vulnerable, but I'm really excited.
I'm so excited to dive into this because, I'm often telling people about how much better their profile can be. And in our video today, we're going to actually walk through where it is today. And we're also going
Mhm.
to show you where it gets to
Yeah.
after you optimize it. So, we haven't actually optimized it when we're recording this, but as the viewer, you're going to see the optimized version in just a moment too. So it's going to be extra fun.
Yeah, I think a good before and after is always really helpful, and I think we're going to learn a lot throughout the process. I'm really excited to see what we do with my profile too.
Awesome. So without further ado, Michelle, if it sounds good, I'm going to share the screen to your profile. And as I'm doing that, do you want to just share a little bit more about why you're interested in spending time improving your profile?
Absolutely. So I am notoriously not particularly fond of social media. It is something I have struggled with through my whole business journey. And now I'm actually really committing myself to exploring pretty much every other way to market my business without social media, to also make sure I'm showing people there are lots of options. So I think a lot of us can feel really shackled to the need to be on social media. So obviously I host my own collaborative events. That's a big part of my sort of marketing ecosystem. But there's something about sending people to a third place that isn't such a high commitment as your email list to get to know you, to kind of connect with new people. And in the last few months, I've been having more people reach out to me on LinkedIn, more people mentioning LinkedIn as a place to connect. And it seems like a really great place for people like us, online entrepreneurs, to meet other people, to find collaborators, and to potentially even find clients. So I'm really excited to explore it. And it feels like a nice kind of compromise in the being social, meeting people, but not having to be on traditional social media.
Yeah, it's definitely not like the traditional Instagram type vibes. But like you said, it's this really important landing page for your business, and
Mm,
people are already finding you, even though you're not trying, right? You're not like trying to be active on LinkedIn just yet, at least.
yes,
Um,
exactly.
they're already searching you, and so let's make sure that we make the profile that you have shine.
Yeah. And that's what I'm really excited for you to help me do, because I've very much DIY'd from here. And it's hard to know what really makes sense, what works in this platform, especially if you don't spend lots of time on it like me. So I think this is very much a good example of a DIYer having a go and putting together a LinkedIn page.
Definitely. I work with a lot of DIYers because I work specifically with consultants. And so usually they're like really motivated and they have been used to doing things by themselves and figuring it out themselves. So definitely
Yeah.
relate to that. The first thing I wanted to look at with you, Michelle, is the very top of your LinkedIn profile where we have your cover image. That's what we call it on
Mm,
LinkedIn. And here we see that we have the photo with a very cool background. I imagine
mhm,
these are from professional photos. And
mhm,
the first piece of feedback I wanted to give you is that we can actually use that as real estate on your profile,
mm,
which means that we can put words there that encourage people to take action. So for you,
mm.
you want to teach folks about how easy events can change their business. And so that's the type of copy that we can put there and really make it branded so it still has this more elegant feel that's like signature to your brand,
Mhm.
but that it's also encouraging people to take an action, like to book a call or to get on a or to book
Mm.
a call or to join your email list.
Oh, great. So I could actually put like a direct call to action in the graphic itself, and that still sort of works in the language of LinkedIn.
Yeah, let me show you an example. If you
Yeah.
look at my profile, you'll see that I have this banner that says learn how to get leads on LinkedIn for your consulting business. That's my promise, right? That's what I do. And I encourage people to sign up for my weekly emails.
Hmm.
And so instead of using this real estate to show my face again, I'm actually using it to get people to understand more about what I do.
Mm. And because they will always see the profile image as well as the banner, we don't really need to have the face in both places. Is that right?
Exactly.
Mm.
And in fact, we don't even need your logo. You don't have your logo, but oftentimes consultants will put their logo there. And we don't need your logo either because we need to first loop people in, right? We need to get them
Mm.
excited about what you promise. And then your brand is secondary to that.
Interesting. Okay. It's a very like different perspective. I think this is a much colder audience, so it's like getting to know the promise before they get to know you, right?
Yeah, we want to convince them that they should keep reading, right? That you're relevant
Mm.
to them. Okay, so let's go to the next section, which is your headline. So here we have growing online entrepreneurs email lists with low lift collaborative online events, summits, bundles, and private podcasts. So the piece of feedback that I have for you here is I really encourage you to add a title. Like I know
Mm.
that there is like this kind of popular perspective on LinkedIn that you should just talk about what you do. But there's nothing that tells people what you do quicker than actually just putting your title. And so I would encourage you to put your title. So I'm curious, what do you call yourself?
Yeah, I call myself an easy events expert, and it makes sense in the context of my business, but I do think it's tricky because I'm not only talking about, sorry, I'm losing my voice. It's tricky because I talk about online events exclusively, and I don't really include that in my title. So I wonder if I should kind of tweak my usual title and say like online event expert or something like that.
Yeah, I like online event expert is a great idea.
Mm.
What do you think about like business coach or visibility coach, something like that?
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with the term coach. I know a lot of people say that you should use it because that's what people look for. I think it's tricky because I don't coach about anything. It's like just about events. But you're
Yeah.
right, I do have a program, and that's through sort of coaching and support. And I do some one-on-one services too. So I think I need to think of something that encompasses everything there.
I think the benefit of using language like coach or consultant is
Mm,
people aren't searching for a term like
mm,
the event specialist or is the events expert. And so I know that it's less creative, but it's much
yeah.
more searchable if we use a title that's more well known in the industry.
Yeah, I think that that makes tons of sense. Would something like strategist work? Because that feels something I could put my name behind.
Yeah. What about something like event strategist as your
Yeah,
title?
I like that. Yeah, maybe online event strategist to again cover that online piece because I know
Yeah,
people get confused with like in-person events too. I like
so
that.
good. We're going to
Yeah,
add that. I love it.
love
Okay,
it.
and then the next part is growing online entrepreneurs' email lists. Um, is it just growing people's email lists? Like, is that the
No.
primary goal?
There's visibility, there's, partnerships, collaboration. It's really like collaborative marketing is kind of the umbrella thing and all the benefits of that. But yeah, it's hard to sum it up with just like one benefit.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean,
Mm,
email list is the very direct benefit, right? You
yeah.
get people hundreds of email subscribers. So I do like that because it's just very, very clear.
Mm.
And what does that do? What does that do for people? Like, what's the impact?
Yeah, I mean, it helps them have more direct connection with audience, which helps them make sales, which helps them have referrals, which helps them have retention, like all those good things. I think I could really link it to sales, but my events specifically don't cover kind of that much monetization. They're much more visibility and audience growth focused. So I do like kind of staying with that, like building your reputation, building your audience kind of side of things.
So, okay, so the impact though,
Mm,
like they're responsible for the sales, but the
yeah,
email list is the vehicle for more sales.
true.
So something we could consider would be saying
Mm,
something like growing online entrepreneurs' email lists so they can make more sales. So you're not
mm.
taking direct responsibility. You're, you're
Oh, I
you're
like
not,
that.
yeah, you're not like saying I give you more sales, but the email list, that you then convert into more sales.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I think that's always the thing. You want to hit the terms that people
Mhm.
want to hear without promising stuff that you're not trying to deliver.
Exactly. Okay, we'll incorporate that into your
I
new
like
headline.
that. Yeah.
Okay, I want to go to your about section and I'm going to share my feedback here. And it's
Hmm.
actually really simple. The feedback I have for you on your about section is that we should start with the problem that people experience.
Mm.
Just like on a landing page, right, on a website, we would start with what is it that people are experiencing when they come to you? For you, it's some sort of lack of visibility, right? This frustration that they can't grow their email list and therefore they can't make sales. And so I want to start with the problem that people are experiencing.
Mm.
That's my biggest piece of feedback for you here.
I think that's a really good piece. And do most people read these sort of top to bottom, or is there something people would skim and we'd want to like format for skimming too?
Yeah, we'll do that too. So we'll definitely
Mm.
add some bolding and italics in here.
Mm.
I don't think people are reading it top to bottom, but so definitely more on the skimming line. But
Okay.
we do want to make sure that each section kind of stands on its own. And so that's something I'm also taking into account when we're optimizing your profile.
That makes tons of sense. I was given the piece of advice years and years ago to put in testimonials from my clients, and I've just dumped them at the bottom here that you could probably see. I wonder if that's still something you advise, or is that just like really old
No, I love it.
strategy?
I love having testimonials. In fact, I'm always telling my clients in my done for you profile optimization service, add more testimonials. So, we're definitely going to use them. I'm going to pick the best one of these,
Yeah.
and we're going to highlight that in the smack middle of your about
Mm,
section. So we'll definitely keep that, and I'll also talk about recommendations with you in like a few minutes as we
yeah.
continue down your profile.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that.
So I'm going to rewrite this whole section for you. Like I mentioned, I have a writer on my team who just puts her magic onto this. So I'll share the strategy that we're discussing on our call, and she's going to just create all the wording for you in your new
That's
profile.
awesome.
Okay, let's keep going. I want to talk about your current experience. So your current
hmm
experience is Launch Out Loud. Is that the name of your current company?
No, this is actually, I have two projects. Basically, I work on the side of my business. I have a retainer client. And
Oh,
so those
cool.
two top ones are my retainer client work. And I'm actually buried down there as the third of those different businesses.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to switch these around so that your
Great.
company is first. And we might even change operations manager just so it looks a little bit more secondary. So we might change the title to something like operations manager contract or something along those lines.
Okay.
How does that sound to you?
Yeah, that sounds good. I think I could highlight too. I've tried a little bit in the text part, but maybe even in the job to talk about the fact that I was managing events for these two companies as well to kind of tie it in.
That's a great idea. We'll definitely do that as well because we don't want to take away from the fact that you have all these other diverse experiences, but
Mm.
we also want to highlight your main gig first.
Yeah, no, that makes tons of sense.
Okay, so as we go down, we have your education. I have just a
hmm
really simple suggestion here, which is I want to add more detail. So
Okay.
we can add like if you were part of any societies or, any
Oh,
if you had any minors. I think maybe this is your major film production, but I'm just curious if
that
you have
was
any detail.
my grad degree, so I don't know
Okay.
if it's a major. I think it's just the degree, but I did have a minor, two majors for my undergrad, the Occidental College one, so I could put those.
Yeah, so we'll just add like a quick sentence about that here.
Mm. Would that make any sense? Because obviously, as we can see, my degrees are not in anything that relates necessarily to my work, but I learned a lot of skills that are relevant in terms of sort of project management and creative design. I wonder if there's anything to add in there, or is this not really the spot for that?
It's a great question, and what we should
Mm.
do is in your about section
Mm.
up here, we're going to talk about how your past experience led you to where you are today.
Mm.
So I don't want to change or get rid of your education because it's a really big part of who you are, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But we just want to create the story essentially of how your studies and film led you to
Mm.
do events, which led you to, where you are today doing online events. And we're going to weave that story in. So then when people get
Mm.
down to the education section, they're like, oh, it all makes
Oh, it
sense.
makes sense. Yeah, because that's always been something I'm a bit self-conscious of, is my degrees aren't at all related to what I do, but I can see the thread. So I think that's really helpful to tie that in.
Yeah, we get to paint the picture of that thread, right? Like we get to
Mm.
create this idea for them of, this is where Michelle started and this is where she is today.
Yeah.
And it's all connected. And let me tell you why.
Yeah, I think that's so funny because in the online business space specifically, we're kind of taught to just tell the story of like where we are. And I think like the background really colors things and it's confronting you to make you think about it, but I think it's actually really helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's keep going.
Yes.
So we have under skills, launch experience and operations management. Do you think those
Mhm.
are the most accurate based on what you do today?
Not particularly. I think launch experience is helpful, but I think obviously the project management around events, event strategy, those would be the skills I'd want to like highlight the most.
Perfect. So we're going to do that in this section. We're just going to change around what skills we highlight.
Perfect.
Okay. And then under recommendations, I see that your last recommendation is back from 2022.
The
And
last time I paid any attention to LinkedIn.
so we're going to definitely beef this up. And my
Okay.
best recommendation for you is to think about your recommendation section as if you were a restaurant. So if you
Mm.
owned a restaurant, you would want a ton of recommendations, right? And your LinkedIn profile is actually no different. People are coming to your profile and they're thinking, is Michelle legit? Right? Is she someone I want to hire? Is she someone I want to work with? Should I be part of her summit? And when they come, we want to just tell them she's super legit. That's the goal of this section. So you
Mm.
literally can't have too many recommendations. And so I would encourage you, and I'll give you word for word templates in the document I send you after our call, but I'm going to encourage you with those templates to ask some of your satisfied partners, colleagues, clients to drop you a recommendation.
I think that's a really, thank you. And also, I think that's a really good point that it doesn't have to just be clients, that it can
Yeah.
be, for me, obviously, as someone who does lots of collaborations, those people could also be really helpful kind of referees as well.
Yeah, I had a great experience being part of your recent summit, so I can leave a recommendation too for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then, you want future summit guests or
Mm.
summit speakers to also know that it's a great experience. So then they might feel more comfortable as well when you get different types of recommenders.
Mm. I did have a question about recommendations. Is there kind of an etiquette in LinkedIn that if, for example, I ask for you to recommend me, that I would then recommend you in return?
Not that I've ever seen before, because
Mm.
usually it goes like in one direction, right? So I was part of your summit.
Mm.
Actually, in the summit case, it can kind of go both ways, right? You could say that Sarah was a great summit speaker or whatever, that
Yeah.
like on time, but in general, like it usually goes one way. Like a client would recommend the service provider in the
Mm.
example for a consultant or specialist or strategist.
Mm. That makes sense.
And it can be intimidating to send these requests. So I just want to validate that it is a little bit intimidating, but having a script, which I'll provide you, makes it a lot easier.
That sounds like a really good strategy.
I'm excited to see the testimonials come through because I know from working with you that people love working with you.
Aw. I think I've just never thought to ask because I've been ignoring LinkedIn, but it's also, I think we get so used to in business to ask for testimonials to put on our websites and things, but
Yeah,
you don't really ask as much in a specific platform. It's not sort of in the nature of other marketing strategies. So that's a good thing to keep on top of mind as well.
definitely. And you can actually ask the people that left you a testimonial on your website to leave
Mm.
the same testimonial on LinkedIn. So you can just copy it and say, hey, you left this
Ooh.
testimonial. Would you be open to also sharing it on LinkedIn?
I think that's a great strategy. I think a lot of people watching will be able to take that one too. Because I know we
Yes.
all get testimonials through like all sorts of places. It's just like getting them into the same spot to see all together.
Exactly. Michelle, thank you so much for discussing this live. It was so fun to walk through your profile and discuss the opportunities. I'm so excited for the potential that your profile has. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go sit back and strategize about what's next for you. You get to relax. You don't have anything left in your core. I'm going to take the intake form that you submitted and turn it into a strategic profile that's designed to work hard for you behind the scenes. I'm so excited to share it with you soon. You'll get it within 10 days. And we're going to record again in 10 days once it's ready. And we're going to walk through all the changes that we've made on your profile.
Through the magic of editing, we're back now. You've done my audit and we're ready to like dig in to see the finished results, which is really fun.
Yeah, we have a new profile to show everyone who's watching. And how are you feeling right now?
Honestly, this is the most surprising thing coming out of my mouth, but I'm quite excited about being on LinkedIn now. You've done just such a great job of making it feel not the corporate cold vibes that I guess I came into LinkedIn assuming it was, and feel much more like approachable and aligned to all the other stuff. And in some ways, I think you demystified it a lot for me through this process. So I'm really excited for it, which again, I wasn't expecting so much.
I'm so happy to hear that, Michelle. And it was really fun, like capturing your essence in the words of your profile. So I
Oh.
can't wait to share that with everyone.
So this is what Sarah sent me, which is like a full deep dive into my profile, but also came with a bunch of goodies. Do you want to talk it through? Because this is obviously like your baby, but I've been working through this all week, and so I feel very familiar with it now.
After Michelle purchased the service, I immediately sent over this quick onboarding form. So she just shared some information about her business. And then I took that information and I created a report for her with every word for word change. In fact, I try to make the report just as simple as possible. So, like, all you have to do, Michelle, is copy and paste it in. But in each section, I include both the recommendation that I'm making and the rationale. I have some clients who like want to know all the reasoning and some clients that just want to make the change. So I cater to both types with this report. But as you can see here, we have like maybe 15 sections covered. I actually have like 30 in my master document that I work from, but I don't share the suggestion with you if you don't like if it's not relevant to you. So Michelle, you're actually only seeing the parts that are relevant to you. I left out everything else that's like that you had already had perfect on your profile.
And what I really appreciated here, because I am one of those people who likes to know the why, not just the what,
Mm.
the rationale, because I think that's where you help me see the opportunities and sort of what we're doing with our LinkedIn profiles. I think there was a lot of education baked in that I didn't realize. And you had some really handy tutorials because I am coming in LinkedIn. I think I created my profile 6, 7 years ago and haven't touched it since. So I am a fresh newbie to the platform. It was really helpful to know where to click to do things because it's not that obvious if you're not familiar.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
so happy you liked those tutorials because, LinkedIn tutorials basically suck. And so I just want to make it as easy as possible. So all my tutorials are like 30 seconds to a minute, and I just click through myself and show you exactly how to make the changes. But like also, Michelle, you probably didn't want to hand over your, username and password to me. You want to know how to do it. So it's like that perfect middle ground where you get to make the changes, but it's super easy to do so.
Yeah, and I think going through this process, I felt more confident using the platform overall. I'm like, oh, I click here, I do that. That's how that works. And I think it was quite a nice like learning curve to get through so that now when I'm publishing content and doing things, I'm like, oh, I'm not brand new here. I know how this works.
And I saw you were starting to publish content too over the past week. So I see that it's already working.
I mean, you definitely got me to catch the bug here. I've been really excited to test this out because, again, I think I have had this misconception of LinkedIn being this super professional, like job listing board, essentially. That's what I thought it was in my head. And I'm seeing a lot more people from like our networks of online entrepreneurs, of smaller business owners there, posting actually quite interesting content. And it feels not so dissimilar to things we used to see. I almost feel like it's like blog posts or like old school what social media used to be of like, oh, I saw this, I had this observation, I have this thought, and it's a really like nice environment to see that kind of content come through.
Yeah, there's definitely a more like educational,
Mm.
insightful style of posts that people use compared to Instagram, where it's more kind of flashy, if you will.
Yeah, and I think more practical too, which very much speaks to the way my brain works.
Definitely.
Shall we have a look through some of these different suggestions? We don't have to go through everything, but just to give people like a taste of what you suggested for me.
Yeah, why don't you share your favorites? Because I could talk about each of them in detail.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to point out the featured section because this was something I didn't even know existed. But this is basically like the pin board where I can tell people this is what I want you to look at. And I think this is such a smart thing to add to a profile because I wouldn't know where to click. Again, if I'm not familiar with LinkedIn, I wouldn't have known this. But you gave me these like 3 suggested places to send people, beautiful graphics already made that I was ready to just like pop in. And now I have this little billboard, which we'll show in a sec on my profile, of like, here's how you can learn about my services and listen to my podcast and get my free gift. So this was a super fun surprise for me to know that even existed.
Do you want to show them the featured section live?
Yeah. So this is obviously my back end, so I think it looks slightly different than if someone else looks at it. But basically, as we scroll down, I now have, ta-da, this beautiful featured section here with the links and my little graphics that you helped create, which is really cool. Again, I didn't know it existed.
It looks so good. I love how it looks live now.
Yay. I think the other huge thing was the about, the sort of big chunk of text we get to put. I had written something many years ago and didn't know quite what I was doing. And I think you really gave me something I could just use right away. But I think it really covered a lot more than I thought we could or maybe should in the about section. So I was curious if you wouldn't mind like telling everybody else what you look for and what you put into these about sections, because again, I just didn't know what to expect with these.
Yeah, the about section, like I sometimes feel like it's a work of art, because it takes so much tinkering for me to get it just right with my writer. It's just such an important piece of your profile. And I want to capture your essence so much so that you feel like the next time you go, speak at a summit or the next time you update your website, you actually want to use copy from this. That's like my kind of underlying goal is that this becomes copy that you really can rely on in your business. Um, I do have like a format that I often follow. I always start with the problem that the client has. So if you see at the beginning here, we can see the problem, which is like you run an established business, you know that the market has changed, and you're not getting the same results that you used to get. That's the problem language that you gave me.
Mhm.
I just kind of turned it into something that reads a little bit clearer and nicer for LinkedIn. So that really comes from your understanding of the problem that folks experience. And then once we've established the problem, we position you as being a solution to that problem. But there's this really important nuance here, which is that the problem exists with or without you, right? If
Mhm.
Michelle is not here, there's still a problem, which is that ads and traditional email marketing and whatever aren't working like they used to work. That problem exists. You just happen to now be entering the picture in order to solve
Mhm.
that problem. And so I like really love positioning it in that way
Mm.
to make you the solution to the problem that already exists.
Mm. Yeah, I think you captured that really nicely. That is copy I kind of lean on too. And I think you did a nice job to tying that into not just, I talk about online events, but I think you really made that make sense with the rest of the copy into like why specifically I love the types of events I help people with and why I kind of do the way I do it. Again, it was eerily similar to the way I write too. So it feels like someone had just sort of written down what was already in my head.
Oh, I'm so happy. I On the intake form, you shared what the tone of voice was that you had
Mm.
that you want to write. And my copywriter is honestly a better writer than me. So I share that information with her and I lay on top the strategy that I want to use. And so she's able to like really kind of study your materials and understand how you write. So I'm really happy you felt like it sounds like you.
Yeah. And I love that you included a quote from one of my favorite clients and you gave a work with me section, which I would never have thought to put. And that's such a smart thing. It's like the call to action we're told to put in, every other piece of content. I think
Mhm.
it makes total sense to put it on the about section too.
Definitely. And you saw my little note here where I said even
Mm.
easier. What did you think about that new name?
I know I've been playing with the names of things. I love the name. I'm reworking what I'm doing with my program. So I'm like,
Ah,
oh,
cool.
I'll see where I go and I might lean on that later.
Exciting. And if you want to, while you're reworking,
Mm.
different program names, something you can consider is you could remove the three different ways to work with you, and you could change it to like a single sentence that's a little bit
Mm.
more, I help X type of person reach out to learn more. So if you do find that you're changing your offerings, you could remove the offerings so that you can have a little bit of a broader and really just
Mm.
encourage people to reach out or to book a call. So that's something you can always consider.
Yeah, and I'm sure people who are watching who don't have like one signature offer or one signature service appreciate that idea because I know personally I have a lot of multi-passionate people who hang around with me and they wouldn't be able to say in like a quick little list like here's what I do. I like this idea of just like this is generally what I do and here's how I can help. I think that's a really nice still way to give the call to action still at the end.
Yeah, we want to make sure we're clear enough. And that's the
Mm.
feedback like I provide throughout the whole process, but we don't need to be rigid at the same time, especially because your business is dynamic, right? And you change
Yeah.
your offers just like other businesses do. So we get to like flex, we can change the section based on what your business needs.
Yeah, should we see what it looks like in the actual profile? So you had a really fun tool to do some formatting, and we've been having some problems with it. So it's not as beautifully formatted right now, but I still think I like that it's not a wall of text. Like you've still given bullet points, still broken down a little bit, so it's not ominous to just sit and try and read the whole thing.
Yeah, LinkedIn has been glitching. It won't let the bold text come in as normal. I'm having this issue with several clients right now. That's a
Yeah, you can
bummer.
see in the example there's like lovely bold, there's some italics, but we'll keep playing with that. But I just wanted to show that even without that, it still, I think, is much more readable than what I had before, which was kind of a bunch of paragraphs.
Yeah, it's really clear and easy to skim. And even if somebody just catches one or two paragraphs, which we know is how users behave on a page like this, they're still going to really understand that you're credible, that you're good at what
Hmm.
you do, that you have strong offerings.
Yeah. And that kind of brings me to my other thing, which I'll just show here, is the top skills. Again, didn't know that was a thing we could do. But I think it's really smart because, again, it's like we have on websites or other places, these visual bullet points of like, this is the stuff to pay attention to. So if someone hasn't, opened up the about section to read the whole thing, we still have those top skills that show really what we want people to know.
Yeah. Do you want to share maybe one more of your favorite sections, and then we'll talk
Yeah.
about how you feel now and what the next steps are?
Yeah. So I think the recommendations is the next one. And this is the one I'm currently working on. So this is a good tie into what I wanted to ask you next. And that is some of my recommendations are very old from when the last time I touched LinkedIn. But I think what you've done so nicely here is you've not just given me homework of like, go get recommendations. You've given me some scripts so that I can go and ask people and not feel too weird about it. And it's, I think, really nicely broken down into people who've written a recommendation for me before, like people who've left testimonials, and then people who've not written like a recommendation before. I think this feels like something, because I've built a business not using LinkedIn thus far, this feels a lot more like, I don't know, easeful to just approach people who've already left me a testimonial on regular forms or on my website to say like, hey, could we use this on LinkedIn? Here's what I need you to do. And I love the idea of, if I was receiving this, this would feel quite easy for me to actually do. So I was thinking on it on the other end too, of like, if someone asked me that, I actually think I could do that. That doesn't feel scary, even if I'm not that familiar with LinkedIn, because they've given me everything I need to do.
Amazing. I'm so happy you like it. And have you sent the requests yet?
I've made my list. I have actually been sick since we've
Oh
been sort of
no.
working on this. So this is on my to-do list. But I actually thought this would be a fun thing to talk about, brainstorming
Yeah.
different people we can approach for recommendations. So I'd love to kind of ask you, where should we look for our recommendations and who should we be asking for those?
The best place to start is thinking about who you want to attract more of into your business. So sometimes what business owners will do is they'll say, like, who is the strongest testimonial? And I actually
Mhm.
wouldn't start with that question. I would think who's most relevant. And based on those people, will ask for testimonials. So the reason is because we want to make sure that when people see your recommendations, they see people that are just like them.
Mm.
So is there somebody who kind of represents that client profile of who you want to be working with?
Yeah, I have a few people in mind. I did look them up and they're not active on LinkedIn, but they're there. So they've
Okay.
been on my list. And that's where I wonder if you have any sort of tips on people who, even if you've got clients who aren't on LinkedIn, how can we still encourage them to leave us these testimonials? Or
Yeah.
maybe do we rewrite them and include them somewhere else if they're not on LinkedIn?
So I would definitely still ask them. We know that if they're not active on LinkedIn, I wouldn't send them a message through LinkedIn.
Mm.
So what you can do is you can send them a message like on WhatsApp or on Instagram or whatever and say, "Hey, I'm updating my LinkedIn profile for X reason. I know that you're not that active there, but I thought about you because you were satisfied with my work in the past. Would you be willing to leave a recommendation for me on LinkedIn? I can send you, instructions for how to do so, and even I can send you the copy of what you left me in the past as well." So that's the type of message I would send them.
I think that's lovely. And I think too, thinking about the people we want to attract, not just our, biggest fans, is a
Yeah.
really smart filter, because I know asking for testimonials can feel a bit awkward. And so I think being thoughtful so we don't have to ask everybody, we just need a handful of people. And you gave some recommendations on sort of the cadence we should be doing that too, because sadly enough, it doesn't seem like it's quite a set it and forget it thing. We need to actually keep up on these testimonials.
Yeah, most of your LinkedIn profile is set and forget. Most of it, like you do it once and you never need to do it again. But recommendations are an exception because it's just like reviews at a restaurant. If you were to go
Mm.
to a restaurant, you wouldn't want to see that the last review was from a year ago or from 2 years ago. You would want to know that people are going there all the time and they're consistently happy. And so LinkedIn profile reviews or recommendations are really the same way. And so that's why I encourage you to have at least a few recent testimonials. I gave you some specific rules of thumb in that section, but I want to make sure that your profile looks alive and has a lot of energy, and a lot of that comes from, of course, all the other things we did, but having those recent testimonials goes a really long way. And
Mm.
from sales pages that testimonials are the highest converting element, according to most sales page experts. So there's no reason we should leave that off of your profile.
I love that. Well, I think that's good advice on the recommendations part. What are the other things, now that we're thinking a bit beyond the profile, that we should be doing on LinkedIn now that this is part of the kind of marketing ecosystem? What's my other homework?
What's your other homework? So there's two more things I want you to think about. The first is LinkedIn posting, right? Posting on LinkedIn and sharing your insights. And I know you've started posting a little bit about your program that you were just launching, and I really want to hear more about your insights on the industry.
Mhm.
Really thinking as you post, how am I teaching people things that they don't necessarily know and sharing insights so that people come to me as a leader in this space. That's the first thing. I recommend posting twice a week. And I think you've already been doing that since we updated your
I've
profile.
been
So
trying my hardest.
I love it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I want you to be sending direct messages. So via the chat feature on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
I encourage my clients to send at least 10 conversations, start at least 10 conversations a week. It means 10 unique, you're talking to 10 unique people throughout the week. It's okay, like responses to incoming messages do count, but you only can count one person once in that 10. So I really encourage you to start conversations with folks that look relevant. And I don't want you to overthink it. I want you to really say, if I were meeting this person in person, what would I say to them?
Mm.
Just make sure your questions aren't Googleable, make sure that they're really warm. And I'm happy to help you think through this more if you're interested, but I really don't want you to overthink it. I want you to just start a conversation in a way that feels non-robotic. So like sounds like you. That's actually where templates go wrong, is when you start using templates, you start to feel like everybody else. And so, I want it to sound like you and I want it to feel like Michelle.
Mm. And so, where are we finding these people to connect with? Are we sort of doing SEOs, sort of searching and looking for them on LinkedIn? Are we trying to find our network and sort of reach out to them? Who are we messaging?
Yeah, I teach 9 different triggers actually for who to pick to message. I'll give you just a few examples for the sake of
Mm.
time. One
Yeah.
example would be people that like your posts and people that comment
Mm.
on your posts. So that's where the posting and the direct messaging become this kind of amazing like ecosystem, right? One
Mm.
actually supports the other. So that's one place to look. Another place to look is connection requests, people that are connecting with you. Instead of just accepting the connection request, you can actually use that as a trigger to start a relationship or a connection.
Okay. And when we see those connection requests, I think because, again, of other social media, my spam trigger alert is on high. Do we need to be mindful of people being really spammy and weird, or is LinkedIn a pretty safe space still for us to talk to strangers?
There's still going to be spammers on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, it's just a platform where you're going to get a lot of, unwarranted direct messages, and this is just the name of the game. However, what you can do is you can make sure that you're really selective with which connection requests you accept in the first place. And if you do find that you let somebody in who's just trying to spam you, you can block them. So don't
Mm.
feel like you owe them anything. We want to make sure that LinkedIn is a nice place for you to be. And so there's some really kind of key strategies you can use just to make sure that you're not like in a position where you're getting spammed all the time.
Yeah, and does that have something to do with like how closely connected they are to you? Because I've seen that there's like first degree connections, second degree, third degree. Is that sort of part of how we tell if these people are complete strangers who just want to spam us or not?
It can be hard to do. I mean, it can
Mm.
be hard to know, but a lot of times, like if you get connection requests from people in countries that you don't typically work with,
Mm.
maybe for those you could decline them because again, these aren't relevant referral partners and these aren't relevant potential clients. So that's one type of filter that you can use. And sometimes though, even the people that are like second degree connections who connect with you, they still might be just trying to pitch you right away. So if you get a message that says like, "Hey Michelle, if you're looking for graphic design services, blah blah blah," you could just respond and say, "Hey, this isn't relevant for me." There's no harm in just telling somebody no. Or if you
Mm.
really feel like, that message was very tasteless and you don't want to hear anything else, you could just, block them or disconnect from them.
Yeah, I think that's the impression that I've had from the outside, that all the DMs are just spam, spam, spam. So I think your advice to just start conversations and try and create like a human to human connection feels much less scary. When we have connected with someone and we've started this nice chat, is there any etiquette on sort of the LinkedIn platform for when to transition conversations into sort of work and working together?
Yeah, this is the secret sauce of LinkedIn. And this is what I teach in my main program that's called Leads on LinkedIn. I teach how do you go from starting that initial conversation into actually booking a call. Because I know that you run a very kind of aligned, you run a business that's aligned with your personality and your values, and you don't want to just pitch people, but you also want to book discovery calls. And
Exactly.
so there is a very specific technique that I teach in order to get from that intro, first of all, how to have the intro, right? How to start the
Mm.
conversations, into exactly how do we identify that the person has a problem, and then how do we get them to book a call in a way that's all permission based and that feels good. And because of that, it has a very high success rate because when you know that somebody actually has a problem, they're very happy to get on a call because people like others that can solve their problems.
Yeah, I think the permission based sounds so key. And I think probably that's something other DM based strategies would benefit from as well. But I
Yeah.
think particularly I just get the impression that people like me who've been scared of LinkedIn are scared of the spam, like the pitchy fest, the spam fest. So I think that feels much more human focused, which is very, very much my cup of tea too.
Yeah, I wish I could scream from the rooftops that, like, yes, DMs can be spammy, right? There's tons of them that are, but it doesn't mean that the DMs that you send need to be spammy. And in fact, I can go so far. I have so many opinions on this, but direct messages I see over and over. I've supported more than 150 consultants with direct, with these strategies to book calls on LinkedIn. And DMs are the single biggest predictor of my clients booking calls and getting clients
Mm,
from the platform, the single biggest predictor. And so I would be I'm confident to say that when you send more direct messages, you book more calls. And when you book more calls, you get more clients. There's a very direct
mhm,
relationship. It's a stronger relationship than posting for sure. And the size
mm.
of your network, definitely, right? It's much more important that you're actually starting and having these conversations on the platform.
That's really good advice too. And so when we're thinking about sort of this ongoing, essentially work of being on LinkedIn, again, you said 2 posts a week. I think that sounds relatively doable for people who create content anywhere. And, I'm thinking now I have this YouTube channel, I have a private podcast. There's things I'm already creating that I can probably pull something out of. So realistically, the main work is sending those 10 DMs every week.
Yeah, you also send regular emails. I know that because I receive
True.
them. So you can also think, what's your pillar content? Like where is the juiciest, the juiciest content coming from? And literally you just use that content on
Mm,
LinkedIn. Just make sure that you're sharing value in each of the posts that you
mm,
have. I really don't recommend that your posts just say, go here to learn more, go here to learn this, go here to learn that, because when you do that, then people don't first of all, we know that a lot of people don't actually click. So it's hard
mm.
to get the click. So knowing that most people won't click, let's make sure that the post itself is valuable so we get
Hmm.
engagement on the platform before we even worry about getting people off the platform.
So actually, that's a really interesting point. So if we are repurposing, let's say, a blog or a YouTube video or a podcast or something that exists elsewhere,
Yeah.
do you think it's more strategic then to just give them all the content rather than trying to direct them to watch or listen or read elsewhere and keep them kind of in platform as much as possible?
Yeah, so I'm going to just make a side note to the listener,
Mm,
which is that this advice is very custom to you, and it's not
mm,
something that will necessarily apply to every business because you are at the beginning of using LinkedIn. And so the
yes.
advice I'm going to give you is custom to that. Especially because you don't yet have a big network on LinkedIn. I really want to focus on you building trust with people on the platform without taking
Mm,
people off the platform. So if I'm talking to somebody who has a bigger audience, the strategies will be different. For you, I want people to come to your content, see that you're a genius, and want to learn more from you.
mm.
The strategy is
That's
relatively similar for bigger, but it's a little bit nuanced still.
Mm. But I think that's so helpful because we have been encouraged in other platforms and other places to like get people back to your land, get people back to wherever the content exists. And I think that is a good nuance because we're not really creating LinkedIn traffic to get them onto our websites. We're getting them, as you said, into conversations. And I think that is a really important distinction. It's not trying to drive clicks over to your website, over to your sales page. You're trying to get people to talk to you.
Yes.
And weirdly, I think that is quite a different approach and a different mentality.
Yeah, and actually think about what we just did with your profile. It's a really
Mm,
nice segue. You actually now have this native sales page that
mm,
exists within LinkedIn because we've optimized your profile. So when somebody goes to your profile, they see what you offer. And so we
Mm.
actually don't even necessarily need them to go to your website to understand the essence of what you do.
Yeah, I think that is actually a really nice sort of way to wrap all of this up is that LinkedIn is a bit more of a standalone space than maybe, again, we're used to with traditional social media, and maybe why it's not really social media, because it is a standalone place to create those conversations, to create those networking opportunities, and help you have those conversations that can, if you do it right,
Mhm.
lead into those sales and sales conversations too. And I think that is part of what, again, makes me feel excited about it as an alternative. That's the whole theme of this channel. Like the alternative to social media, which can feel quite endless, feel spammy, feel like it's not really for business owners. This feels much more with a purpose and with a sort of common understanding that we're all here to talk about what we do for work, what we do professionally too.
Exactly.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for auditing my LinkedIn profile, for helping me optimize it. I'm so excited to see how it does. Maybe we should do a check-in in a couple months or in a year or something to see how we've been doing. And for giving me these tips on what to do next. I hope everyone watching has enjoyed seeing and learning from my mistakes, helping see what to do moving forward, and feels inspired to actually give this a go because I think it's not nearly as scary as I and probably you thought it would be.
Michelle, it was so much fun to work with you and to hear your questions. And I appreciate you being brave to share the before and after. I know that's not always an easy thing to do. And you were so fun to coach through this process. So, really, thank you for doing this.
So if people want to go through this process with you, if they want to work with you further, what should we do to get started?
Thanks so much for asking, Michelle. The best place to go is to my website, sararoyf.com, SARAROYF.com. You'll then click to the Work With Me page and you'll see exactly how to get started working together and how my process works. And I'd love to hear from you soon and get started supporting you with your LinkedIn profile, just like we did with Michelle.
It's been a really fun and educational process, and I think a great way to kick off kind of your adventures on LinkedIn without having to guess everything and sort of fumble your way around. I feel like I really have a strong start. So if you are curious about LinkedIn, I highly recommend that. And where can we go to learn more about you and your work and see your work in action?
Come see me live on LinkedIn. Find me at Sara Royf, SARAROYF. And from LinkedIn, we can start chatting. You can ask me your questions there. You can join my newsletter. I'd love to get to know you.
Awesome. Well, I'll have all those links below if anyone wants to learn more. And if everyone wants to check out my profile as an example of what you can do through this process too, I'll leave the link so that you can have a look at everything we've done together here and comb through and see exactly what Sarah suggested for me.